legends where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan got the word. In the world of EDH we play.
Hello everyone, welcome to Commander's Pod. Once again, I'm your pod father, Duncan.
I'm Sloan.
And I'm Jeff.
And today we're going to talk about how to fix the brackets. Just our ideas on what Wizards could do that might make them work better. It's a work in progress. They said maybe August they'll come out with some new ideas, so we wanted to throw some things out there. We'll also have Tales from the Table. We'll talk about how do you handle a deal made at the table. We'll have some pro tips for you. So anyway, let's talk about, just something funny I noticed, and I've noticed this can happen. When you build a new deck, you're excited to play a new deck, right?
Right.
So I built Codus, the Fang Keeper.
Yep.
He's the one that when he deals damage...
So the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah, Fang Keeper. When he deals damage, you can look at the top X cards of the opponent's the person he hits library and cast any number of spells X or below, where X is the damage he dealt.
Right.
So I built that, and we talked about it when it came out that I really wanted to build it.
Yeah.
And when I pulled him, I was very excited. So I built it, and I took it out in the wild to try it. And the first day I tried it, I could not get my mana to run.
Yeah.
Sometimes I couldn't get green. Like if I started without green in my hand, I would not get green the rest of the game.
How many colors is he?
Three.
Then the next game, I got green, but maybe I couldn't get white then. It's weird stuff like that. And I'd end up with
But you play more basics than untapped color.
I only have 15 basics in this deck. I made sure to try and put the 2-color lands and the 3-color lands and the fetches and things to go get it.
Okay.
But so I tried 2-3 games in a row. I couldn't get. I'm like, all right. I also built Bator Kintal, I think it's called, the one where he cares about the total toughness of your creatures.
Right. Yeah. The white, black, green dragon.
Yep. So I built him. So I switched, and so Bryce was actually sitting across from me. He goes, "Hey, can I try that one?" So I let him play it. It ran perfectly for him. The first turn, he had a green mana. The second turn, he had that. And he had a Soul Ring. He never had a problem.
That might be your hint.
Yeah. And I think Andrew even ran it once, and it ran for him. But that first night, it would not run for me.
That's so funny.
I was able to get it to work the second time on the second night. But I was just like, are you joking right now? It's crazy. And just sometimes, and it's like when you put a new card in.
Right.
You could play 20 games and never see that card.
Or one.
Yeah.
And run into it, which is always fun.
Yeah, I have a funny experience about that. At the league, I got the dragon, the Twin Tyrant, on the first week for my packs.
Yep.
I had not seen him yet. And this is now the third week that we got to play in the league.
And that's when you want to see him.
The first time I get to see him, he gets hit with a board wipe because he got put into play for free because of the spell a person cast in response to a board wipe. So I got to put a card from the top of my library for free, and it came in and it immediately got blown up by the board wipe that was on the stack. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I've played 9 games. I haven't seen this guy once yet, and the first time I get to see him, he immediately dies. Come on.
Well, and then the other thing that happened when I was playing it is that when I couldn't get the mana,
right,
Bryce is playing Gonti, so he's getting to play all the stuff off the top of my library that I want to be playing.
Right, yeah.
Play your own cards.
Gonti doing Gonti things, man.
Yeah. Aggro Jeff, what's aggravating you today?
Well, I just feel like people need to be better at just so many things. But in general, we were at Disney World, and there's a place in Epcot where we were actually Magic Kingdom, where there's Tomorrowland, and there's an area where you can go stand and watch fireworks. So my wife and my wife's sister wanted to watch the fireworks. Me and the boys wanted to go ride some of the rides, so we did. And we were coming back. There was a attendant there saying we couldn't go the direction of my wife and her sister. We had to go out into the middle in front of the castle where there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people waiting.
Right.
And I was like, my family's 20 feet that direction that you're saying I can't go. They're right there. Turn around and look at them. And this young girl, who's obviously not old enough to have a family, she's going to follow the rules. with no ability to insert common sense. And so I said, well, my family's right there. Just turn around and look. Escort me over if you need to. But I'm not going to go right before the park closes, a completely different area where my family is separated. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
That'd be a real problem when we're leaving the park. Because Magic Kingdom, you don't just leave the park. You go get on either the monorail or the ferry. And so you could be really away from your family for quite a long time, depending on what direction you go.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just told the young lady, I'll tell you what, I'm going to not listen to you since you're making a terrible decision. And you just do what you got to do. And then I just went to my family. Luckily, every other employee around was like, yeah, I would have done that. But don't be dumb. Just be more intelligent.
That's
Like,
right,
it's
guys.
ridiculous.
Don't follow the rules that are set before you for work.
If
Do
rule-
whatever you want.
If the
That's the
rule
lesson
makes
here.
no sense, you are a human being and you have the ability and autonomy to make a decision as a human being, not just follow some rule. Yeah.
Yep.
That's my thing.
Well, they only have the power they're given.
They had the power to engage their brain.
Apparently not.
I
Well,
mean,
every other employee did it. So if you're out there and you're watching this, be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Just go around the employee telling you don't go there. Okay. So let's talk about our counterspell segment. How seriously should you take a deal another player makes with you? Okay. Because we know you.
I was here
I
for
mean,
one of these.
Can I just? I mean, I feel like I should just go get a snack right now and just wait for you guys to hash this out because I even at the
don't make
commander.
deals.
I don't make deals. I even at the Commander League last night on Saturday when we were playing, it was down to me and two other guys. I said, listen. I'm not going to make deals. I'm not going to politic with you, but I know for a fact if you kill me, you are going to lose this game because he's immediately going to crack back at you and kill you.
That's
And the guy's like, yeah, I know. I was like, well, it was a board state. The dude had the Omnixilus that every single time he puts a land into play, he pings someone for 3 life.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm
So
saying
I was
that's
just
politics.
That's not politics because I'm not asking for a bargain or deal. I'm pointing out a board state effect. And so I said, I was like, I'm not gonna make a deal with you though. Like I'm not gonna say if you ask me to not hit you so you can go after him, that's not an option. I'm not gonna agree to that. If you go after him and you kill him, I'm killing you. Period. Or I'm gonna try to kill you both. But I was like, you do what you need to do. So he ended up killing me, and then on the very next turn he lost the game. So, but yeah, no, I don't make deals with people. I don't try to cut corners or whatever. So.
So Jeff, if somebody makes a deal with you
Yeah.
and says, I won't do X, I won't attack you,
Right.
and then like it gets around to their turn, something changes and they're like, I'm sorry, I'm going to attack you. How do you handle that?
It's very simple. I'll say, okay, I'd really encourage you not to do that, but if you choose to do that, I will never play a Magic game with you again. Very simple.
And I think that's extreme.
No, it's not. I don't want to play with a liar. Like you can do all the stuff up to making a deal, agreeing on it, and then just being a liar. I'm not okay with that. And I don't think anybody else should be okay with being a liar either. It's not good for you.
It's not being a liar.
Right, 100% is being a liar.
And when I make deals, I try and say, here's where I am now. This is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I cannot predict what will change, but I will seriously try not to. Like I try and say,
Yeah,
it
then if you make a deal with you, then you know up front. You're saying,
but most
I'm
people,
going to honor it until I don't honor it, but I wouldn't make a deal with you then. Because that doesn't make any sense.
okay. But I mean, in the situations where this comes up is when it's like, somebody has a board state needs to be dealt with, and you're like, look, I can deal with this, but it's going to leave me wide open. So
I think the person who you made the deal with, there are situations like when you make a promise to your kids or whatever, like because in our home, this is really big. If we make a promise, we keep it. Like even if you're like, well, we promised we'd go out for ice cream, and then you find out like your mother-in-law has invited you over for something, whatever. Then we'll go to the kids and say, hey, this situation came up. The situation changed. Can you help me out? Like, can you let us out of this promise we made? And it's up to them whether they let them out. There are situations where you can make a deal with me, and it's not like it only just hurts you, and that was not my goal. My goal was just whatever deal I made was that I don't die.
right.
And now you're going to die if you keep your word. And I'm like, yeah, I'll let you out. You could do this thing.
So
But that would be up to the person you made the deal with to let you out.
the reason I put this in here is because the last game that Jeff and I played together,
Yeah.
we were at the shop, and Jeff had a ridiculous board state, and he put out, but it was a ridiculous board state of planeswalkers.
Yeah. I think,
And,
yeah.
and you're like, hey, if I leave if I don't defend the one you're worried about, guys,
Yep.
will you not like try and kill me this turn? Like I'm not trying to be. You were like, I'm not trying to be a problem. This is what I had, and I played it. So if
To
I,
one player. Yeah, it was one player in particular.
but you made the deal with the table. I mean,
No, it was one player.
okay. Well, regardless, you're like, will you not kill me? And I think what happened is it got around to that player's turn. And he's like, I can take out the table.
No, he couldn't take out the table, but he could have. I was one of the people he could have taken out. The game would have kept going, but I would have been dead.
Yeah, but I think he could have killed you and one other player.
Possibly, but yeah, that's possibly
Because he drew into something that he wasn't expecting that then made it so.
I think on my turn, I might have played something that made it so like on my turn I was going to win too or
Yes.
something. I drew into
yeah,
it.
it looked like you had a possibility, and he was the last player before you.
Yeah, something like that. So certainly the situation was very bad for them, but they
Yeah.
had made a bad deal.
Yeah.
It was a bad deal they made. They shouldn't have made the
So
deal.
even if you know that the person made a bad deal, you're going to hold them to it.
Yeah, because they
or you
made the
won't
deal.
play.
They gave me their word.
It's a game. And it's also a battle game. Like you're battling it out, and it's like
Well, it's just like in politics.
every
If-
plan is only a plan until you start.
if you're dealing with like world politics where you're dealing with like we got Putin and Trump and all those guys, they lie all the time. But you start lying to each other in those negotiations will fall apart. Like even if I played with that person again, I would never make a deal with them.
Well, that's
Like
my
it
thing.
would affect.
That's how I responded the first time this happened to me. The first time it was blatant. Now this one was even worse because the one that happened to me the first time, it was a guy and he said, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, I won't kill you." And then it got to his turn. He goes, "By the way, I never keep my deals."
Yeah, no. This is no
And
good.
so he killed me.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, "Okay, just so you know, I will never make a deal with you again." He goes, "Yo, you shouldn't. I never keep deals. That's how I make deals. I never keep them."
See, for me, look, if it was a question, like I can be pretty forgiving. Like if it was like, oh, I didn't understand what I did, or he thought he worded it differently than me. Like I can let those type of things go if they're general. But this was like very clear. We all knew the deal was made. We all knew what the deal was, and you're breaking it. And the reason why I won't play with that person is less because, like, oh, you did me wrong. It's more like I would not want to spend time with or play a game with someone who's just a blatant liar. I just
But
wouldn't
you
want
keep
that.
calling them a liar.
That would
And
be a
that's
lie.
not what it is.
Yeah.
They went into a deal thinking that they were making a deal they were going to keep. And then on their turn, situation has now changed. Board state looks different. Things didn't go the way you thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
You draw into something where you now feel like you're in a much better,
Well-
you're not as beholden to that deal. And if you do follow through with the deal, you're going to lose the game. And if you don't follow through with the deal, you could win the game.
So, I teach my kids your word is your oath, and your name is your word. So if you can't keep your word, then that's a problem. That speaks to who you are as a person. Like I think it's important. Yeah, it's a game, but you remember I told him. I said if you do this, I'm not gonna play with you again. But I also don't think it's good for you as a person. You should not like you go. Oh well, it's just a game. What you do in those situations, you will do in the rest of your life. They're not separate.
To me, intent brings a lot into it. If you are intending to keep it, but things change, and you are like, hey, I know I made the deal. I'm sorry. Things have changed. I'm breaking the deal. Deals get broken all the time in the real world. It doesn't make the person a liar. The situation changes.
I think it does. It's a promise you made.
And that to me, that situation is very different from the guy who I said is like, no, I don't keep deals.
Yeah, your thing is worse. The guy we were with, he thought about it. And then I was like, look, this would be very upset. Basically, I said, this would be very upsetting. This would not be good. Our relationship will be affected by this, right? Even though our relationship right now is just playing a game. And he was like, well, I don't want that. And that's good. He should learn that.
Yep.
That when you make agreements with people, whether it's in business, in life, in relationships, keep your word.
So
That's it.
I'm going to interject here because you said something very clearly earlier about keeping a promise with your kids. And I think it absolutely applies to the situation. The circumstances in which the deal was made under drastically changed when something came out than putting you in a completely different position than you were previously to win the game. And in that moment, using your logic, if he would have said, hey, listen, something came up and something changed to the point of where now me holding this deal is now just bad because I'm basically handing you the game. I'm going to have to break it. Would that been acceptable to you?
No, the only
Great.
person that can let you out of a promise is the person you made the promise with.
Right, which was
And
you.
it wasn't-
And he was asking you.
And I don't have to
because
let him
you-
out.
Great. So
That's how
so
a
it's
promise and a
only-
deal works.
So here's my point. There is no such thing as a good deal when it comes to Magic. Period.
But that's your opinion.
No,
There
that
are-
is true because in every single situation, every single time someone's making a deal, there's always one person that is coming out ahead over the other person.
Johnny,
that is
how
what
can
happens.
you say that's not your opinion? That's literally your opinion.
Every single deal that is ever made, someone else is getting ahead of the other person that are making the deal with. That is how deals work.
Possibly, and the way you make the deal is you be the person that's ahead. A lot of people say the best deal is a deal where both people lose. So there are
Sure.
deals like that where like, hey, there's someone who's clearly winning the game. We're both going to take a hit to deal with that threat together. And that could be mutually beneficial for the both of us, even if we have to take a hit to do it.
This is why I don't do politics.
And the other reason why I
mean,
feel
this
like
is-
this situation was different is you weren't taking care of a problem and saying, hey, if I take care of this, will you leave me alone? That to me is very different.
No, there was some
than,
sort of-
hey, I'm a problem. If I try and be less of a problem, will you not kill me?
Yeah, so he didn't have to make the deal. The deal was, if I don't defend this planeswalker, I just let it die, who they were very worried about, will you not kill me on the next turn? That's what basically the deal was. It's a very simple deal. And you don't have to make it. You can just say, no, I'm going to go. You go ahead and try to defend it. And then you could try to
Because
kill
I feel
it.
like what you did was actually emotional manipulation.
No.
Because you weren't trying to be magnanimous. You were trying to save your own skin
No.
and made a deal to save your own skin.
Sure. You can always try to save your own skin. But my issue is with you giving your word and making a deal. It's the same. And in business and situations and stuff like that, where these people will function in life and in relationships they'll function in life with, it's really, really bad to break your word. It's really bad. It destroys relationships. It destroys business partnerships. It destroys all kinds of things. Just keep your word. And if you can't keep your word, don't make a deal, or do like Duncan and say, you could word it this way. Hey, I will not kill you on my next turn unless I can kill everybody. And then I probably would have gone, okay, if you can kill everybody on your next turn,
Yeah.
I'll make that deal.
Yeah.
But make the deal differently. But once you make the deal, keep your word. Because it has nothing to do with the game. It has to do with who you want to be as a person.
Well, I mean, I think it is a game. I don't think things end seriously there. Like I said, the guy who did that, by the way, who said, I never keep my deals, never would have expected. Very nice guy, very kind in every other aspect. But to him, it was just a game, and any deal made in the game has no
Sure.
bearing on
And
it.
if you say that up front, if you're like, hey, we're playing a game, I just want to let you know I will deceive and cheat and lie and do all those different things. I feel like that's part of the game. Great. I have a choice whether I want to play that type of game or not. Maybe I do. Maybe it'd be fun to play that type of game where we're openly saying, this is what we're doing in the game. It's not a reflection of like who I am individual. We're like, there are games designed for deception, right? I don't know which ones they are, but like
Poker.
where you would straight out lie to someone. Yeah. But when that's not the case and you say I'm going to do something and then you just say, okay, well, situation has changed and now I'm just going to do what I want to do, what's best for me. I don't think that's right, because in your relationships in life and in business in life and in every other different types of things, situations change. You still need to keep your word.
But what if
That's the
that's-
hard part of having
What
character.
if that's their strategy?
To lie?
Yeah.
Well, then
Well,
that's
in
very
my
simple.
guy's situation, that was his strategy.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's my point. Like so basically what you're saying is you want a rule zero conversation on how everyone's going to play the game every single time before you sit down.
That's
and play.
fine. You can do that. My point was, if you do that, I'm not going to play with you again, and I don't think it's good for you as a person because you didn't tell us that up front. I didn't know that's how we were playing. I thought I could trust you. So that's fine. But I don't want to play that type of game, so I'm not going to play with you in the future if you can't keep your word. This has happened. This has been a discussion on many different podcasts. I don't want to go into it because I don't know if I'll remember who it was specifically. But this has happened many other places. I just think it's a character issue. If you make a promise, keep your word. That's all.
Yeah, and to me, it's a game. And if you try and keep your promise, that's good enough for me. I'm not going to take it personal. But if you say something like, oh, no, I never make deals, or if you show that you never keep your deals, I'm going to not make deals with you. Obviously, and
And
probably
you could do the thing that will keep your blood pressure down. Just don't make deals.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
But-
Because
I mean,
Johnny is
this
definitely
conversation-
known for
'cause
someone
this-
with low blood pressure.
Because this conversation
He
doesn't have to
doesn't get
happen.
heated.
So
But anyway, that's one I've been wanting to do for a while. But let's move on to how to fix the brackets. Everybody has opinions. We wanted to throw ours out there because I do think that the brackets is going the right direction. It has opened up conversations. It has done a much better job than the 0 to 10 system of
It's
how you rate
moved
your
the
deck.
power level down, I feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely has. Well, that
Right.
and the banning of Mana Crypt, Dockside, and Jeweled Lotus, I think that helped too. But it's made people realize what are the cards that are changing the format. It's made them think about it, even if they don't like how it's being used.
And people are purposely taking game changers out of their decks so they can drop down levels, which I think is really good for them.
And I'm trying to build decks that don't even have them to be a 3.
There you go.
But I want to be a 3, even though a 3 can have 3.
Right.
I'm trying to build decks like, can I build it with no game changers and still have it be a 3?
Yeah.
So, so the first one I thought of is the most obvious one, the one I think is actually the most important. More game changers.
right. I mean, definitely increasing this list and being more realistic with what cards we're seeing actively affect the game in a big way is obviously going to be the most beneficial thing. And so the big thing with game changers, and I think, and this is a discussion I had, and I'll kind of circle back to this probably later on as well, is game changers are not banned. You can absolutely play them in brackets 4 and 5.
And 3.
And even 3. You can technically play them in 3, up to
You
3
can play
of
the
them.
worst 3
You
that
want.
there are.
In bracket 3.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the stigmatism, because I was talking to people at the shop on Saturday for Commander League, and one of the things that I was talking about with one of the guys is like the way he was defending why certain cards that they put on the Game Changers list this last update shouldn't be there was basically him defending why they shouldn't be banned. And I had to I took a moment and I said, well, the way you're defending it makes it sound like they are banning they're not banned. Like, you can absolutely play them. They are 100% playable cards. And I think that's the big thing right now is a lot of people don't understand that game changers are not banned. They're just not allowed in certain brackets, and they're limited in bracket 3. That's it. That's the
and
only
now
thing.
we know if you're pub stomping.
Right. and when someone is pulling out a deck with 7, 8, 9, 10 game changers in it against a dude who's pulling out a precon, it's very evident that a lot of times those game changers are the cards that set you over.
100%.
So I just again want to emphasize that game changers does not mean banned. It just means they're not allowed in bracket 1 and 2 and limited in 3.
Right. But even the people that don't think they're banned are like, they're singling out my cards.
Right. Which we poked a little fun at Jeff because one of the weeks he wasn't here is when they announced him and they hit a bunch of his cards. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was almost 6 or 7 of cards that you have in a lot of your
Yeah,
decks.
because they finally decided to pay attention to green for some reason.
Yeah.
They're
So
like, well, just ignore green. when they
Right.
first
The
did it.
most powerful color in Magic.
yeah, which we discussed last
And
week.
white, because they got Teferi's protection too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the 3 good cards in white got put in the game changers. I
Yeah.
mean, so
But
but yeah,
they
more
let one
than-
off to put that one on.
There's
well,
more
one
than
that no
3
one
good
agreed with. But I mean, I definitely think game changers are something that, as long as they keep having a clear definition of why they're there, is definitely a way to keep honing the bracket system for sure. I 100% agree with that. I don't know what maybe the cap is. I don't know if we should have a cap.
No.
No,
there
I don't
should-
think there should be a cap.
Yeah,
I
I
will.
If it's a game changer, it's a game changer.
I will say this though: managing expectations is super important in anything you ever do, and especially when you have a fan base, right? So, I think it'd be really cool with more game changers if they set a date. So, a set comes out, you want to get past the sale cycle, right? Because you don't want lack of game changers to affect the purchase ratio of the set, right? Because if a set came out and had no game changers in it, people might buy it less. But once you
Right.
get past a certain point, I don't know what they set, 3 months later or something, you said.
When the next set comes out.
Okay, maybe when the next set comes out, or 3 months, or whatever it is. But if you had a set time where you said, at this point each time after a set, we're going to review what cards in that set become game changers. I think that would have people prepare themselves for that. Because each set comes out and you're like, okay, that card's wicked powerful.
Well, I mean, that's also a two-sided coin though, right? Because on the other side, you might have people who aren't gonna buy it because there are cards that are gonna be game changers now, and now they don't want to buy them because
They don't want to get attached.
they don't want to
them.
get a game changer. Now they don't want a game changer because crap. Now I can't put it in my one deck that I really wanted it to go in. So I mean, I feel like that can go both ways.
I don't think becoming a game changer has lowered the price of cards.
No, I'm not saying lowering the price of cards. I mean, what I'm saying is, so you're looking at that set, and let's say they're doing it your way, right? So they're announcing the game changers 3 months later. Well, these people that had built all these decks and put them in there, now I have to go through and take all these cards out because now that bumps them up to a 4 or bumps them up to a 3. And I don't want it to be there.
What I'm suggesting is those cards that are really powerful are going to end up the game changers anyways, eventually. But if they had it set to where it was a set time where they evaluated it regularly and people were prepared for that evaluation, they would pretty much already have idea of what's going to go on that and therefore manage the expectation. Maybe it's not after each set. Maybe it's once every 5 months or something, though letting people play with cards before you put them on the game changers, I think is
right.
important.
So that's my point. So if on the flip side of that, if they did the game changers ahead of time, it might help people be like, okay, I'm going to buy around that card. Then I'll just go get the singles from the set that I really want that aren't game changers. Like it's hard to,
unless there's another Nadu. Even with Nadu, I don't think they knew before they
Or-
released it how bad it was.
well, even who's the one guy, the otter that they insta banned before he was even released?
Oh, what?
Eatery. The blue red guy, the spell slinger
the
one that's a
was
companion.
a companion that literally said he can go in every deck.
Yeah, every blue red deck.
Any singleton.
Right, any singleton format.
I
So
don't think they should pre-game changer. That's going to affect sales.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying they should.
I think that they're not. They don't go in and say, I'm going to make a game changer.
Right.
So you really don't know until it plays.
Like,
so I think you have to let it out in the wild, see what happens. I think they try. Believe me, they do actually nix cards that are going to be too powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Believe it or not, they come up with stuff and they say, I mean, it's hard to believe when you see things like Nadu and Dockside Extortionists get made. But
right, and then you see other things like Dracogenesis come out.
Yeah.
And Ugin, that guy's ridiculous too.
And Ugin
But-
that makes the other Ugin look fair.
Yeah, yeah, the new Ugin that makes all the other Ugins look like they're under control.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think Game Changers is definitely a good way to keep molding this bracket system. It's definitely going to be very helpful. And I think, too, now having this Game Changers list to even test play some cards that are banned that they're thinking about unbanning.
Which they just did.
Which they did. And I think that's good, too. So I do like the fact that, adding more Game Changers could definitely help with the definitions.
No,
So
I think the
I'm agreed.
brackets are better too if they say we're going to keep unbanning cards and see if they work. People will then like the brackets more because it's doing something they want.
Yep. What do you think about? So another idea I had, I feel like some game changers are worse than other game changers. Like yes, it's a game, but Ristic Study is a game changer. But I'm trying to think of an example. Like Oko is a ridiculous game changer. You know what I mean? Like there's like things that are like, oh, this is going to become a problem later, and oh, this is a problem right this very minute.
Yeah.
I think to keep it simple, stupid. I think.
Well, so what my idea was is within the game changers, these are 2-point game changers. These are 1-point game changers.
See, yeah, the problem with that is then you start building, and then people are going to be like, well, I feel like this one's worse even than this one, so this should be a 3, and then you're going to start having this point system where you have to buy game changers.
Yeah,
so that's the only downside with that.
I wouldn't add complication there.
I think one of the things you have on here is actually probably the most pertinent thing, in my opinion, is the most important, is making it precise. Having a precise number for every bracket for tutors, for game changers, for
Extra
chaining
turns.
turns. Having
And-
precise
and
numbers will
they
be the
talked
best
about-
thing you can do.
They talked about infinite combos, but what about non-infinite combos that win you the game?
Right.
That shouldn't be allowed in turn 2, really.
Right. I mean, I think the idea, really the first 2 points we have here, the more game changers and being precise are going to be the 2 things that are going to help the most with this system. And I do agree. I do like the system.
I think it's 3 that makes the most difference. Make CDH its own format.
Well, that's what essentially
Because
they're
it
doing.
muddies the waters for everything. Well,
No,
but
because
4
it
and 5 are the same.
Yeah.
But that's my point. If they're precise about 4 and they put precise limitations on 4 and let 5 be CEDH, CEDH then is its own category, and then 1 through 4 is casual with precise rules.
Here's a great
4
example.
is precise. It's just the same as 5.
Yeah,
Well, that's what
true.
I'm saying is that
So
they
it's
need
not
to
precise,
add. They
it's
need
the-
to add rules. They
Right.
need to add precise rules to 4 to distinguish it between 4 and 5.
Which will make CDH basically its own format.
That's literally what I just said.
but it's not. It has the
not.
same ban list. And a good example I always use for people is the card Flash. That card was not a problem in EDH. It was a problem in CEDH.
Right, but again, going back to point 1, that's where the game changers list comes in.
Right, but they banned it. This is a banned card.
I understand that. My point is, if they unban it and put it on the
You
game
can't
changers
know
list,
because
It would destroy CEDH.
what's the point? There is no limit to game changers
Yeah.
in Tier 5. So if it broke
Right.
CEDH,
which is CEDH, Tier 5 is CEDH.
right, and if it broke that,
Sure.
having it released just breaks it again.
Right. Right.
You need to have a separate ban list because it's not the same cards we're worried
It just
about.
muddies the waters for everything. And
Yeah,
you might
but-
even have a different game changers list for CEDH than
And
you
I
do
don't know
for
why they're
EDH.
so resistant to it. It is a different game.
But-
it is a different mindset.
Agreed.
My point is that with the game changers list, you can have cards that you can allow to be a problem in CEDH because that is what CEDH is. CEDH is ultimately just a deck full of problems. That's it. That's all it is.
So what your argument is, to heck with CEDH, they're a problem anyway. So if they don't like the card, too bad, they're a problem.
My point is with the game changers list, and if you make it more precise between 1 and 4, meaning you add some limitations to 4, because again, the issue with 4 and 5 is right now is there's no difference essentially. It is basically the same thing. A 4 and a 5 bracket deck are essentially going to play exactly identical. If you make the precise decisions on bracket 4, like you have with 3, 2, and 1, and then you let 5 be CEDH. If you're in a tier 5 bracket game, you are playing a CEDH game. With the game changers list and part of that bracket 4 system being limitations with game changers, you can then unban these cards and see how they work in CEDH. If there's still a problem, great, we rebrand it. But
that's my
with
point.
it being on the game changers, you keep it away from 1 and 2. You limit it in 3, you limit it in 4, and then the people who actually want to make it a problem, which is CEDH players, they have the chance to make it a problem.
My point is, it's not a problem in EDH. We're not allowed to play with that card because CEDH has a problem with it. It's not a problem for us.
Well, and I also think that if it was separate, you might have different game changers for
Yeah,
CEDH
no, for
than you would
sure.
for EDH.
For sure. They don't care about Smothering Tide. That's
Yeah.
a 4-mana card.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to say they don't care about
They
it. but
never
it's-
have to
it's
care
not
about
that
it though, because there's no game changers for 5. But
right, that's
my
my
point
point.
is 4.
There's no limitation for CEDH.
Yeah, except for what's banned.
Right,
or not
except for
banned.
what's banned or what.
Which, to
you know.
Duncan's point, is like I would be okay if they just separated 4 and 5, but I do get Duncan's point that like there maybe should be a different ban list for the two types of
It's
games.
different. It's a different. The mulliganing should be different because they don't care if they go down to 4 cards.
Oh, that's a great point. That'd be great to have a better mulligan for casual.
Yeah.
Sure,
because-
I'm okay with that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just think making CDH its own format is
But-
so powerful.
So while we're talking about that, though, one of the things that comes up when you talk about having a different mulligan, we've talked about having just starting with a mana crypt or a mana crypt, a soul ring,
A banned card.
Yeah,
Starting with a banned
start with
card
a
on
banned
the field.
Yeah,
we're
just-
casual.
start with a soul ring and 2 lands, or start with 3 lands or something. And the funny thing I realized is there are players, and Lizard is one of those players, the guy we play with sometimes, who would then be like, "That's all the lands I need. If I can
Right.
put them out. That's all the lands I'm putting in my deck."
Right.
And I'm gonna have 97 cards of gas.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's kind of my point with the system is if you want this system to be successful, again, we need to make it as cohesive as possible across the board, right? Like we need it to be something that everyone can see and understand the definitions and what each bracket is supposed to represent. And so I think that the biggest, right now, in my opinion, the biggest flaw with this bracket system is 4 and 5, period. The fact that there's just zero distinction between the two. And I think that if Wizards is watching and they took one thing away from this from me, my opinion would be, please distinguish 4 and 5. You got to do something. You can't just have 2 brackets be pretty much identical and say they're different. That's not.
I don't think we
no,
have
no,
to
no,
take.
the difference is the mindset.
I don't think we have to take one or the other. We can have both and in this situation. Like,
Yeah.
I think I would just push them to like, hey, I would love to have a time when you guys are going to address game changers every year. If it's multiple times a year, great. I think getting rid of the words few and some and things like that are confusing is really important. I think CDH at least separate 4 and 5. CDH being its own format would be a pipe dream, but I'll take it if you want to give it. And I also agree with this last one, which is add some game changers to 1 and 2. Like have 1 there and 2. Like just spread it out a little bit more.
Maybe it's 1 for 1, 2 for 2, and 3 for 3. Because right now, I don't think it's fair. I think there's a wide gap between 2s and 3s because you're allowed 3 game changers and 3.
And maybe it's like 4 and 3 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 2 and 2. You know, I don't care what you guys figure out there.
I think that there should be it should be done in such a way so that you can have fair games if you have a 2 and they have a 3.
Yeah.
Like maybe the 3 has a slight advantage, but you can have fair games.
I think you can now,
I
too,
think
though.
the point is, I think when you're looking at a bracket system, the way you want it to work is you want the decks that are in between to be able to play essentially with the bracket below and above it, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a 2, it should be able to fairly play against a 1 and a 3.
That's my thought. Yeah.
Right. And so, and again, to your point, I do think the lack of game changers is definitely preventing that from happening right now with 3 and 2. For
And then-
sure.
Wait,
and then
are
with
we
3 and
saying
4.
are we
And for
saying
sure.
that you could have a deck in 2 that could play 1 and you could have a deck in 2 that could play 3?
Yes.
Or are we saying that every 2 could also play 1 and 3? Because I don't think every 2
So
can
No,
play
so
1 and 3.
not every 2, but that
What we're saying is because this has 0 and this has 0 and this has 3, anytime
you're
these...
drawing
I get
something
that.
on a
Yeah, I get
audio
that.
podcast.
I understand that.
What I was asking was, do you think one deck in 2, like every deck in 2 should be able to play 1 and 3? But now I'm getting, you guys are just saying in general.
In general.
You should be able to create a 2 that could play a 1. You should be able to create a 2 that could play a 3.
Right.
And I get that. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
The real problem, as you're pointing out, is 4 has no limitations, and so it's just
Right.
So the
ridiculously
only thing that
can't-
to me 3 is the only one that they have even come close to clearly defining.
yes, yeah.
Because it has the least few and sums in it. Because
Yeah.
it has a definite number of 3.
Yeah.
It's the only bracket with a definite number that is not 0 of things you can play.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything else is not quantified. So
And they can clean up the tutor situation too when they get more precise and decide like how many exactly, and then they could clean. Which they've added so many tutors to the game changers list. Maybe it's you don't even have to say tutor anymore. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot
Maybe
of
just-
tutors out there that cost a lot more than are on the game changers list, and because they not monetary but CMC wise,
Yeah.
they're so expensive. Like,
Like, is it diabolic? That's 4 mana.
yeah,
I don't. If you want to pay 4 mana to go get a card, great. I don't have a problem with that. You could do that at 1 and 2. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But let's put all the powerful ones on the game changers, then we don't have a problem.
yeah, and then you don't have to have limitations on tutoring.
Yeah.
You know.
And the same can go for extra turns.
Yeah, the ones that are easily chained could be put on the game changers list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the one that you can just what is it? Bury 3 islands and you get it back in your hand, or return 3 islands to your hand or something.
I don't know.
And the
But any-
buyback is with 3 islands.
But
the one
any
I
of the
know-
ones that
Time warp.
exile would be fine.
But there's is it time sieve? That's the
I don't know.
There's an artifact that you can just keep untapping.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely some that are easier to chain than others. The one that's 10 mana, let it be. You know, it's fine.
Yeah. And the ones that exile after you play them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Or the red ones that say you lose the game.
at
Sure.
the end of at the end of the next turn, you lose the game.
Yeah, because those are kind of fun. Like, okay, I'm going to win right now or lose the game. And if someone stops it, those are great games where they're like doing everything and you're like, okay, well, I stifle that ability or whatever for that you're doing that you thought you were going to win with. And now you go to your end of your turn and you lose. That's great.
Yeah. So did you guys have any other things you want to bring up about the brackets that you thought might
The
help?
only thing was that I think they should have a regular set time, which I suppose as I'm saying that, maybe they do, but I don't think they do. Where
As
they're
of
gonna
right
address
now-
game changers.
Yeah, as of right now, they don't because it's still technically this is in testing still. It's
Yeah, still beta.
Still
Yeah.
beta, so it's not really out
And I think
as an official rule set.
it'd create great buzz too, because all of us would be talking about it, right? When it's coming up to that time where they're gonna announce game changers, and everybody would be abuzz with conversation and discussion and argument.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think
I think though they should handle it. I just want to put this because it belongs in this part of the conversation. If they do that, they should though be willing to do. Okay, no, this one is super powerful. We're going to make an exception. We're going to tell this one is a game changer right now because we're seeing it. and maybe it'll be banned later. But for
Like
right
an
now, it's a
emergency game changer.
Yeah, like Nadu should have been made a game changer
Like
while they were still
immediately.
evaluating whether it should be banned.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
not Nadu, but yeah, something that's very powerful. Sure, they can make emergency. I'm not saying they can't.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
just
I
saying-
would say if they do it like once a quarter, so that's every 3 months, they could.
Yeah,
Because that should give enough play time too for those cards to have time to be out in the wild, so they can actually see the effect.
They just maybe do it each quarter, but cannot do it to the most recent set. Because if it just falls where it's like that set's only been out a week, that could be really
well,
bad.
what I would say is every quarter they do it for the previous quarter.
Okay, I'd be good with that. But
Yeah.
just do something where we know it's coming. No, there's less hurt feelings because expectation is typically what causes people to get really upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so and I mean the last thing I would like to point out about this. So the gentleman I was talking to at the shop on Commander League night Saturday about this, the card we were specifically talking about was Seedborn Muse, right? And I know that this card, a lot of people at the shop were definitely kind of upset that it was put as a game changer. And when I was talking to this gentleman about it and we were kind of discussing it, he goes like, I don't get why they made it a game changer. I just feel like it's really not that bad. It's a creature. It's this, it's this, it's this. I said, I completely understand that. However, when you're saying that, are you talking about in decks that are of equal power that can immediately deal with it? Or are you talking about decks where they're not as well tuned and they're not as fast and they're not as quick? Because you have to remember that Seaborn Muse is in green. Green can have Seaborn Muse out easily by turn 2 or 3 because of all the ramp they have and all the way they can get mana on the field very quickly. And then on top of that, you have to think you don't just have 5 mana, you have 20 mana because you get to untap that mana every single turn on someone else's turn. And you still have all your defenders and you have all the things and all the tricks and plays that you can do. And when you look at it like that and think, well, I don't think that's exactly fair in brackets 1 and 2, then you understand why. That's why it's a game changer. It's not because it's broken and needs to be banned. It's because that in brackets 1 and 2, a card like that exponentially sets you ahead of everybody else, period. There's no question about it. And so that is what people need to remember is that game changers are not meant to keep you from playing the cards and banning them. They're meant to protect brackets 1 and 2 and a little bit of bracket 3.
That's why that's where the challenge is. It's so many of these cards have to do with what you surround them with. Some of them don't. Like Ristic Studies, just good. It doesn't matter what you surround it with. Seedborn Muse absolutely matters what you surround it with.
I would disagree.
Well, you can disagree, but if you have it in a deck where you can do something on other people's turns, then yeah, you have 20 mana. If you're not playing with flash speed and instants, you don't have that.
If you have
If
zero
you're just
instants in
doing
your
it
deck,
to
you're building your deck wrong.
if you're just doing it to untap your attackers so that they are defenders, that's very different than the other things you could do with it.
They have made cards, and there was even cards in this last set that will untap your creatures. Drumbellower will untap your creatures on our people's turn. There's other cards. There's a green enchantment, actually, I just saw, that untaps your creatures on other
But
people's
nothing
turns.
untaps all permanents you control on
Right,
other people's
but
turns.
I'm saying Seedborn untapping everything on each turn.
Like it's definitely powerful, but I was also on the fence as to whether I thought that should be on the game changers. But nonetheless, it is no big deal. You just move on. Like I don't get upset about it.
So the one thing that I think is the reason we don't have a ton of game changers right now. Like we have like 80-ish.
You guys feel like we don't have a ton of game changers?
I think
and
they
the
need-
grand
they
scope
could
of how
double
many
it.
cards exist in Magic.
I think we've got a ton.
We have a lot, but I don't think they're anywhere close to getting all of them. I don't think they're even close.
I think at this point just add new ones that are new sets that are
So
coming
Ancient Silver Dragon, how do you feel about that?
That card's so stupid.
out. I don't know. I'm not
All the
I'm not
Ancient
that-
Dragons. Pick
I'm
any
not,
of them.
I'm not that bothered by it, to be honest with you.
I play that card. It is now in my
It's a lot of mana to
Fenwick's
play that
deck
card.
because it's not a game changer, and one of my cards was made a game changer, so I'm like, okay, I'll put this in.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely more cards.
Isn't
to be
it 7 mana though?
Yeah.
And you have a chance to roll a 1?
Actually, I think it's 8.
Yeah. So
No,
you're
it's
like,
7. Five
and
blue,
2?
blue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're all 7,
So
I think.
I guess no, I'm not that. I don't think
They
it
have a
needs to be
50-50 chance. No, more than that.
Your average roll should be between 9 and 11.
10.5. I think.
How many cards is too many? Because I think it's probably 3 or 4 and up.
Yeah, but you have to swing and hit with it.
A flying
Yeah,
7/7.
when it deals combat damage.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have a problem. If you're asking me, does that need to be a game changer? I'd say no. Do you have another one?
I mean, I'm sure I could come up with it.
I mean, any
that
of the
wasn't-
ancient dragons, the one that makes creatures, the one that
Not worried
the
about
one that
any of
makes
those.
treasure tokens, the one that makes I think
Yeah.
it blows up
I
stuff.
mean, maybe we'll do an episode sometime of the one we think should be game changers because
Yeah, maybe.
I am not kidding you. I think they could double it. I think they could have 150, 160.
I personally
cards.
think they have enough right now, and they only need to add ones from
Well,
new sets.
we'll see. I think they're going to at least be at 100 when they're done. At
Wow.
least.
Well, 100 is not too bad because if it goes from 80 to 100, that's not too bad.
I mean, but we'll see. But anyway, I do think more is what one of the main things they need. All right, so how about some pro tips this week?
Yeah, so before we do pro tips, we're going to do a Commander League update. So the shop was closed for 2 weeks. They're relocating, so we weren't able to play for the last 2 weeks. It just reopened for this past weekend, so we got to go back. I myself took down a win, Duncan,
Yep.
and then both Mike and Dwayne, I think, also got wins. So the standings right now is Duncan is holding on to, I think, a very slim lead. Dwayne has 10 points. Duncan has 14. I'm at 11. And, oh, no, actually, Mike surpassed you. He's at 15.
Yeah, because he went every week.
Because
but
he went every week and got a win this last
guess
week.
who's not coming this week?
I know. So Mike won't be there this weekend, but
So reclaim my throne.
yep. And then Clayton is still chilling at 3 because he's had something to do every single weekend, so he
Yeah.
hasn't been able to get back to the
I
shop.
don't know if he'll ever. He's the Jeff of the group.
I mean, at least he's been to some of the games. I haven't, none of them.
So the other thing I want to talk about in the Commander League.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I haven't even told Jeff.
Yeah, this
yet,
is
I don't
gross,
think.
by the way.
I definitely get the win for the best card pulled.
Yeah.
I asked the shopkeep Connor. I said, "Hey, what pack should I get, man?" He goes, "What are you looking for?" I go, "I'd like some real counter spells,
Right.
Not these unless they pay 2, unless they pay 3,
Right.
And he's like, "Well, I mean, they're in the remastered sets." I'm like, "Yeah, but then I can only get
Foundations
one
too,
pack."
right?
They didn't have any foundations. But I've opened some and I haven't gotten it. But he's like, okay, it's in that all the ones he had that he knew that they had, like that Force of Will, but it's in one of the ones you can only get one pack.
Right, yeah. Premium packs.
And you gotta just hope that you get lucky.
Right.
But he's like, Wilds of Eldraine has some, and they got some good stuff in there. I'm like, all right, Wilds of Eldraine, sounds good. 3 packs. First pack, open it up, go to the first rare, Ristic Study.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
the last thing that you need in a
Yeah.
Commander League is Ristic Study.
Yeah. Oh, I
That's
got
great.
to use
That's,
it too.
That might be the best pull right there. You're going to get
So,
Well, my third pack, I can't use it in my deck, but my third pack, I got Doubling Season.
better. Okay. That's pretty good.
unfortunately. So, for my packs, I will say, because we're talking about it, I pulled a Notion Thief for my pack.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
Which was, I was like,
if I hadn't pulled the
yes.
Ristic Study, that might have been right up there.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah.
Your Twin Flame Tyrant was really good.
Yeah,
too.
that was the first week. So that was my first week pack. But yeah, Twin Flame Tower and Notion Thief's the other really good one I got now. So, but yeah, everyone's doing pretty good. Everyone's getting some wins now that everyone's kind of changing their decks and tuning them up a little bit more as the weeks are going on. So I'm still having a great time. I'm having a lot of fun. Duncan,
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
still think it's a great concept
Yeah,
and a great idea
and I
for
still
sure.
think Jeff's missing.
Bring it to your local shop.
Absolutely. So for the actual pro tip now, I, for Commander League, changed up my commander from the Pirate to Marchesa, Dealer of Death. Hopefully Duncan throws her up behind me so you can see her. She has a very unique ability that only was in Thunder Junction, which is called Committing a Crime. And I was like, you know what? This is actually an ability that's very unique, and even her ability more specifically is more unique. So she says she's a 3/4 human rogue, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, so 3 mana total. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So committing a crime is targeting opponents. Anything they control and or cards in their graveyard is a crime. So we're going to do a little quiz time here. First question, if I counter one of your spells, did I commit a crime?
No, it's not a permanent.
No.
Both wrong. You absolutely are committing a crime because you control that spell. Whenever you target anything they control, you control the spell. If I counter your spell, I am committing a crime.
Okay.
Step
Okay.
2. When does committing a crime happen?
Don't commit
When-
crimes, kids.
when the spell is cast, when the spell is resolved. When would the committing of a crime
Well,
happen?
it's when it's cast, because that's when you choose your target.
Jeff?
That sounds right.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this is because this is on the targeting of part of it. As soon as I go to count, before the counter even happens, I can then trigger her ability, pay the 1 generic, look at the top 2 cards, and use her ability before it even resolves, which is a really cool, cheeky ability to, because it kind of manipulates the stack, quote unquote, with the way it works. And then the last thing I was going to bring up is her ability specifically. I'll read it one more time. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. If someone has out the Narset or Teferi that does not allow you to draw additional cards, would that prevent me from being able to...
Read it again.
Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard.
Okay, yeah, so that's not draw.
Yeah, doesn't.
Right. So the cool thing about this, you guys are correct, is this is not actually drawing, and it's actually not discarding either. So a lot of the things like Orcish Bowmaster, which would trigger when someone draws a card, doesn't trigger this. When you have a Narset out that's keeping you from drawing more than 1 card a turn, doesn't affect this. So this is a really cool, her ability specifically, but committing a crime is kind of cool because it has this weird effect.
Crimes is not cool. Right?
In the Magic,
Kids,
it's very
it's
cool.
not cool. In Magic.
So, and then the very last thing about this card and committing crimes that I thought was really cool is the wording again says whenever you target opponents, anything they control and or cards in their graveyards is committing a crime. So if you have effects that say when a creature dies, like Blood Artist, target opponent loses 1 life, you are committing a crime when you target that person to lose 1 life.
Yeah.
So it is a really cool concept, this commit a crime, where you can have things that are just naturally doing things as the game goes on, and you can just kind of dig through your deck with her ability. So
But you're paying 1 to do it, right?
for her ability, yes, it's 1. But there's another gentleman that I want to bring
you're not
up.
green.
There's another gentleman I want to bring up who is Karvek the Punisher, who says whenever you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard, make a copy of it. You may cast a copy. If you do, you lose 2 life. So you don't pay anything. Whenever you commit a crime, you can just exile a card from your graveyard and you can cast it.
And that
I would
would
say
break,
that's
that
a-
would break timing rules.
I would say
Yeah.
that's a lot better.
Yeah, and that breaks the timing rule. So you're not restricted to, oh, it's a sorcery. Nope. As soon as you exile it, you can then immediately pay for it to cast it. You're not restricted to the time restraints on that. So again, there's a lot of cool cards that came out in Thunder Junction with this commit a crime ability on it. And I just thought that ability was kind of cool because it works around kind of a lot of things that interact with it. It kind of gets around them.
I'm going to counter your board wipe and put another creature into play.
Right.
I'm going to try and find the crime dog McGruff and have it behind him, like shaking his head or something.
Yeah. So, but So if you guys are unaware of that ability, it's really cool. It's really unique the way it operates and how it functions, committing a crime, quote unquote. So, if you haven't played around with it, you haven't seen it before, I highly recommend it. I'm enjoying playing Marchesa a lot with this ability. It's helping me dig through my deck really quick to try to get to my wins. So, definitely a fun card and definitely a fun mechanic. And don't forget, anything you target that an opponent controls, including spells, is committing a crime.
Well, it's pretty good. Pretty good. That's one of the decks like I have that I've been putting a couple cards here and there as I'm looking for other cards for other decks. So
Right.
It's not getting very big very fast.
Right.
But if I happen to see one that like really stands out, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
That's very cool. But that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you for joining us. If you want to check us out, you can always find us at youtube.com/@commanderspod. We are on all the best streaming services for audio podcasts.
They're the best because we're on it.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can also check out our Patreon. If you would like to support us, we'd really appreciate it. We're always trying to use money to upgrade our equipment, to do better things. We have plans to do some recorded games in the future. So all of you Patreon supporters are helping make that happen. And, of course, our website, commanderspod.com. Don't forget to email us, cast@commanderspod, if you have anything you want to talk to us about, any suggestions. How would you make the brackets better?
Yeah.
Maybe you have an idea we haven't thought of. Love to hear about it. We can bring it up on the show. And don't forget, play bold, swing wide, and don't forget to pay the 1.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains, new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way in the world of EDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's fly and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave on